Good afternoon. It's Wednesday, April 19th. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News broadcasting live from Jerusalem. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended himself today against the critical comptroller's report on Operation Protective Edge. Facing bereaved parents, opposition MKs, and the state comptroller's office, Netanyahu said that some of the deficiencies had already been fixed and that further recommendations from the Amidror Committee would be brought before the cabinet in the coming weeks. The special Knesset State Control Committee hearing was told by the Prime Minister that he tried to avoid the 2014 war with Hamas in Gaza in every way possible. Comptroller Yosef Shapira's scathing report, released in February, had accused Netanyahu and the security establishment of failing to deal with the tunnel threat and a faulty decision-making process. Netanyahu said he would not change the framework of the security cabinet, stressing that modifying it could make it more difficult to make decisions. The discussions repeatedly erupted into shouting as bereaved parents lashed out at the Prime Minister and MKs. Leah Goldin, the mother of fallen Lieutenant Hadar Goldin, whose body is believed to be held by Hamas, blasted the Prime Minister for turning her son from an heroic fighter into debt of a body. Shame on you. Netanyahu responded, saying the government was constantly working to bring home our sons. Netanyahu also said the 50-day war was a success and the South has had a relatively long period of quiet. He said that since Operation Protective Edge, the communities around the Gaza Strip have grown by 7%. The Islamic State claimed responsibility for an attack on a police checkpoint at the entrance to the St. Catherine's Monastery in southern Sinai, in which one police officer was killed and 4 injured. Yesterday's attack came just a week after dozens were killed in 2 deadly church bombings against Egypt's Coptic Christian community. The monastery, founded in the 6th century, is located at the foot of Mount Sinai and is a popular tourist venue. Meanwhile, in a related development, Israel announced the Taba border crossing between Israel and Egypt will remain closed due to the security situation. On the eve of the Passover holiday, the Counterterrorism Bureau issued a warning calling on Israeli citizens vacationing in the Sinai to return home immediately, citing imminent terror attacks as the reason. The border crossing was also shut down due to the deteriorating security situation in the Sinai Peninsula. Finance Minister Moshe Kachlon announced a series of planned tax cuts aimed at easing the burden of working families. Kachlon did not inform Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of his proposals prior to the impromptu press conference held yesterday, leading many to question if Kachlon's announcement was to prevent Netanyahu from taking credit for the finance minister's initiative or possibly payback to the Prime Minister's stand over the future of the new public broadcaster. Sources close to Netanyahu said the finance minister's proposals will be studied with a positive approach. Kachlon said he did not see any reason to update any one of his plan, adding his ministry is implementing government policy. Calling his proposal the Net Family Plan, Kachlon said benefits will include subsidies for after-school activities, extra tax points for men and women with children up to 6 years old, reduced taxes on baby clothes, shoes, and mobile phones. According to Kachlon, the move will raise net household salaries by thousands of shekels each year. Itamar OConnor, the 3rd Israeli who went missing in the Sea of Galilee over the Passover holiday, was laid to rest today in his hometown of Kiryat Shmona. His body was discovered last night by divers, culminating a week-long 7-day search and rescue mission. 19-year-old OConnor was attempting to save other swimmers from drowning last Wednesday when he himself got caught in the overbearing waves and was swept into the sea amid the sudden violent winds. His body was found 25 meters underwater and over 100 meters from the location where the bodies of Nachman Itach and Neron Karadi were discovered earlier this week. The 3 victims were found with a Navy sonar after the police set up a naval patrol unit that consisted of patrol boats, jet skis, divers, and helicopters. Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan has ordered the prison service to investigate if lawyers for terrorist Marwan Barghouti assisted in smuggling an article written by the Fatah leader to the New York Times. Erdan warned if proven they assisted the terrorists, he may consider barring them from meeting with Barghouti in the future. The newspaper published Barghouti's article accusing Israel of mistreating Palestinian prisoners. but failed to mention he was a convicted killer serving 5 life sentences for the murder of Israelis. The newspaper later apologized after the incident led to public outcry. Since the beginning of the week, Barghouti has been leading a hunger strike that up until now has affected a sixth of the some 6,000 Palestinian security prisoners in Israeli jails. In an effort to prevent the strike from spreading, officials transferred Barghouti to another prison and separated inmates, moving them to different cells.
Well, we believe that there is absolutely no reason for this hunger strike. It's quite clear that the Palestinian prisoners in Israeli prisons receive all the necessary conditions. They receive good conditions, and certainly when you compare it to the conditions of Arab prisoners here all over the Middle East. So there is no reason for this hunger strike. And again, this is a political step in order to promote Marwan Barghouti's agenda. We are ready to talk to those prisoners, and there is absolutely no reason for a hunger strike. We have a dialogue with those prisoners. If they want to have better conditions, they can submit their demands or their requests, and the Israeli authorities will decide whether something needs to be changed or not.
Iranian slogans called for Israel's demise at a military parade in Tehran yesterday, where the S-300 missile defense system and the Sayad-4 anti-aircraft missiles and other weapons were displayed. Some of the trucks were adorned with banners showing a fist punching through the Star of David, with the slogan "Death to Israel" written in Persian. Fighter jets and bombers also participated in the parade. President Hassan Rouhani told the crowd that while the Iranian military seeks to avoid tensions and encounters, it had to remain vigilant in the faces of plots hatched by others. Yesterday's annual military parade occurred as the Trump administration notified Congress that the Islamic Republic was complying with the 2015 nuclear deal and that it has extended the sanctions relief given to Tehran in exchange for a curb on its atomic program. At the same time, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said Iran remains a leading state sponsor of terrorism. British Prime Minister Theresa May has called for early elections in June, claiming that the opposition parties are making it difficult for her to have any say in negotiations with the European Union regarding Brexit. Today, May will begin her 7-week campaign with attacks on Labour Party leader and opponent Jeremy Corbyn. May voted in favor of Brexit last June and continues to be popular in the polls, with 50% saying she would be the best prime minister. She must win the support of 2/3 of the parliament to hold early elections, which are currently scheduled for the year 2020.
Our opponents believe, because the government's majority is so small, that our resolve will weaken and that they can force us to change course. They are wrong. They underestimate our determination to get the job done. And I am not prepared to let them endanger the security of millions of working people across the country. Because what they are doing jeopardizes the work we must do to prepare for Brexit at home. And it weakens the government's negotiating position in Europe. If we do not hold a general election now, their political game playing will continue, and the negotiations with the European Union will reach their most difficult stage in the run-up to the next scheduled election. Division in Westminster will risk our ability to make a success of Brexit, and it will cause damaging uncertainty and instability to the country. So we need a general election, and we need one now, because we have at this moment a one-off chance to get this done while the European Union agrees its negotiating position and before the detailed talks begin.
The United Nations is on a mission to recruit doctors in Israel to join its peacekeeping forces around the world. UN Medical Director Gillian Farmer will be visiting Israel in May to meet potential candidates. Especially of interest to serve in key positions are female doctors, who currently make up only 10% of the positions. The candidates will need to have a medical degree, more than 5 years of experience, and be fluent in English or French. The UN has a strong interest in Israeli doctors because of their medical experience. The mission was organized by Israeli ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, who said that, quote, the UN understands and values the contributions made by Israeli doctors to the world, and we are pleased that the UN is looking for Israelis to fill these important positions. Germany has informed Israel that it may be forced to cancel the deal to purchase submarines if corruption charges relating to a deal between Israel and the German company ThyssenKrupp are substantiated in a police investigation. A report in the Haaretz newspaper said Germany added a new clause to a memorandum of understandings that is set to be signed by the two countries in the near future. According to the newspaper, officials in both countries have agreed to the latest addition to the agreement. Questions of alleged corruption arose last November when Channel 10 reported that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's personal lawyer, David Shimron, worked for the German company and was being questioned by police along with others. At the time, the report claimed that Shimron had pushed for the multi-billion shekel deal and that the then Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon only found out about the deal after it was leaked to the media. Police have emphasized that Netanyahu is not a suspect in the ongoing probe. In Egypt, officials revealed yesterday a massive 11-meter-tall granite statue of Ramses II at a Luxor temple. The statue, weighing about 75 tons, was discovered nearly 50 years ago and was in 57 pieces, but it wasn't until last November that the restoration process began. Officials also announced the discovery of an ancient tomb filled with mummies from more than 3,000 years ago. The tomb contained a special hidden inner chamber which protected the ancient nobleman from grave robbers. These announcements come in a bid by Egyptian officials to revive a tourist industry that had been hit by Egypt's political instability.
What we are happy of that classical Egypt, Luxor, Aswan, night cruises, this type of tourists this type of travel started to be back to the normal figure that we used to have before even 2010. Even the number shown here in Luxor and in Aswan on the classical Egypt is much better than even than the Red Sea. Of course, this is the base of the travel to Egypt. This is the base for the tourists in Egypt. So we are very much happy that we are having this, and any add to the destination, it's considered a real asset to our area and to the entire country.
The Histadrut Labor Federation is threatening to call a strike of the public sector next week if an agreement over the future of the Israel Broadcasting Authority is not reached. Histadrut Chairman Avi Nissenkorn warned that unless a solution is found that addresses the future of hundreds of IBA workers slated to be dismissed, he will call the strike on Tuesday. This despite the fact that Nissenkorn reportedly struck a deal with Finance Minister Moshe Kachlon concerning the new public broadcaster known as Khan, in which the majority of workers already hired by them will retain their jobs, with a small percentage of IBA workers being hired and the rest dismissed. Next week, the Knesset is expected to vote on the new law that postpones the start of the new broadcast corporation until mid-May and a separate news division to be set up. The torchlighters at the ceremony on Mount Herzl that kicks off Israel's Independence Day celebrations were announced by Culture and Sports Minister Miri Regev earlier today. Among those to receive the honors, legendary footballer Uri Malmilyan, head of surgery at Hadassah's Mount Scopus Hospital, Professor Ahmed Eid, businessman Eli Mizrahi, author Eli Amir, Mobileye founder Amnon Shashua, Rabbanit Chana Henkin, who lost her son Eitan in a terror attack, singer Yoram Gaon, Michael Steinhardt, Birthright founder, and Rabbi Marvin Heyer, founder of the Wiesenthal Center. In local money matters, shares were mixed on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, while the shekel was mixed in foreign currency trading. Here are the numbers. And the IBA weather team says there will be no significant change in temperatures tomorrow, with skies remaining clear throughout the day. Here are the highs and lows at home and abroad. And finally, since 1990, IBA English News has worked hard to bring you daily news from Israel in the English language. Unfortunately, the new broadcasting news company, which is set to begin operations in May, has no plans to continue the English news. If you not wish to see English TV from Israel go off the air, please make your voice heard. Contact the Prime Minister's office as well as Tzachi Hanegbi, Minister of Communications, and his Director General Shlomo Filber at the addresses below, and maybe we can all make a difference. And that's all for this newscast. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same channel, when Yael Shir will be at this desk. Until then, I'm Laura Cornfield wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.